Hello everyone. My intention with this little talk is to just provide some key points and some information about ways of taking care of your mental health during the period of the COVID-19 virus shutdown. It's a time of a lot of isolation and dislocation for a lot of people from their normal everyday life. So the following is intended just to be very brief, practical, and some of what I've got to say might sound like common sense to some. However, often normal habits go by the wayside during times of stress, and sometimes we can develop tendencies or habits that are really not good for us. So I hope the following is really useful. There's lots that I could expand on further, and there's lots that I won't mention, that should I be seeing some people, or should I be working with someone therapeutically, I'd obviously be going into a lot more detail in my work as a mental health practitioner. But today I hope is of use to some of you, if not all of you. Take what's useful, leave what isn't, and maybe you'll get an opportunity to share with someone else if there's something here that might be of help to your loved ones. So the first thing I want to mention is the following points are often the key things that are really compromised with people when they are suffering mental health problems. Everything I've got to talk about today is research-based, and it's 5 or 6 key points. So the first one I wanted to mention was stay connected with loved ones, friends, family, any relationships that enrich your life. Often when people are not doing well, they're terribly isolated, or they're in often toxic relationships. So do your best to stay connected with people that can replenish you, encourage you. Those who have access to technology, that is often a lot easier than for others. Like I'm sure many are using FaceTime. We've heard lots about Zoom, messaging, phone calls. So clearly the technologically savvy and those who have access to the internet can use a lot of those methods. Those who don't, I think there's other ways too. Just chatting with your neighbours across fences, letter writing, phone calls, anything that just keeps you connected. Lots of people, not everybody needs to be in the company of others all the time, and some people tolerate times of alone better than others. There is a big difference between alone time and loneliness. And it is a period of time where loneliness is a real risk to a lot of people. So hopefully reach out. I encourage you to reach out if you need assistance. And I guess as a congregation of believers that we all be really aware to reach out to others, especially those that may be more isolated than others. So the next thing I wanted to mention was nutrition. Often people, once again, that are not doing well are either eating excessively or not eating enough, or eating the wrong types of food. So just watch your nutrition. Just remember that your food is the fuel to your brain and your body. So you want to be really aware to not eat too much junk food. And if you're a drinker, and I appreciate some people watching this may not be, and some people might have a problem with drinking, but others may drink alcohol. If you do drink, just be very careful not to drink excessively. Once again, this is a time of stress for many, and drinking excessive alcohol is something that is very much a risk factor for mental and physical health. Next one I wanted to mention was exercise. Now clearly there's going to be lots of different levels of fitness with people's age and physical health, but without a shadow of a doubt, staying physically active is one of the outstandingly best things you can do to take care of your mental health. So I encourage you to just continue to be active. Ideally, I guess if you can expose yourself to sunlight as well during that, or if not in your lounge room, or however you can keep your body moving, keep doing it. Staying flexible, and maybe you can do physical activity while you stay connected with others with that, what is it currently, I think it's 1.5 or 2 metres distance that we're meant to have between us, and only 2 people out at a time, though obviously we have to keep checking what is the current advice from the government. It's really important to stay active. Once again, people that are not doing well are often extremely sedentary, or sometimes they're exercising excessively. So once again, you want to find some middle ground in there. I guess with a lot of the things I'm talking about today, we find that people that are often not doing well will just have tendencies to overdo their tendencies. So if they tend to have a habit of eating a bit too much than they should, then they often will eat too much. If they have a tendency to drink, then they might find that they're drinking a bit too excessively. If they have a tendency to be quite sedentary, they might give up all physical activity. So just watch for those excesses. Okay, next one was maintaining healthy sleeping habits. We all know, well, we should know, hopefully, and if you don't, you will from today, that doing our best to maintain our circadian rhythms, which is basically our body's rhythms of sleep and wakefulness, is really important for mental health. Now, clearly this is a big challenge for shift workers, and I guess they're going to have to find ways to work around that. But for those of us who, I'm hoping many people today are not shift workers, because there's probably specific advice to them, but for the general population, just be aware during this time to try to once again maintain your habits of wakefulness and sleeping. So getting up at consistently the same time as best you can, and now we've got the end of daylight saving, so we have to adjust to that as well, and getting to bed at decent times as well. If you are having difficulties with sleep, there's a term called sleep hygiene that you can look up online, and it's the term that is used for looking at any factors that may be compromising your sleep. For example, caffeine. Many of the sleep hygiene things, and you can readily find this information on the internet, some of the factors will be problematic to some and not to others. For example, personally, I can't drink coffee or have caffeine after about 3 o'clock without it affecting my sleep, whereas other people I know can drink coffee at night and it doesn't seem to affect them. Keep in mind that many soft drinks have got lots and lots of caffeine in them. So that is just a term that you can look up, sleep hygiene, if that's a problem for you. Just to keep in mind also that sleep difficulties are often one of the key signs to people that are really not doing well with their mental health. So once again, with the extremes, if you find you're excessively sleeping or you're having major problems getting to sleep or waking up, perhaps getting to sleep but waking up in the early hours, that can be a sign, one of the early signs of being somewhat anxious or depressed. So sleep's a good way to get a sense of how your mental health is going. Of course, with any of the things today, excuse me, they are things you can certainly chat with your doctor about as well. So if anything comes up from today and you think it's worth having a chat with your doctor, do your best to do that. Obviously, they're going to be flat out at the moment with the virus, but don't hesitate to seek help if you need it. The other thing, next point I want to mention was once again, the things that is often absent with people that are not doing well mentally is they don't have much sense of accomplishment or meaning in their daily life. So this is going to be particularly relevant to people that have lost their employment or don't have their normal structure of daily life with what they do with themselves. But also this is relevant to lots and lots of people that are retired or the elderly, even mums at home with their children. Really important to find activities that give you a sense of purpose and accomplishment, whatever that might be. So that might be making nutritious meals, it could be cooking, could be sewing, could be mowing lawns, could be writing letters or texts to friends, could be being creative in some other way, learning something, reading books, setting yourself challenges to read articles or books, or anything that gives you a sense of having got to the end of your day with a sense of having achieved something worthwhile and meaningful. And also the other thing we know that gives people a sense of well-being is having a sense of mastery over something. So I'm even thinking exercising, setting yourself some challenges with increasing your fitness during this period. The next point was practice being present. You may have heard, it's a term that's regularly spoken about, this idea of mindfulness. Mindfulness is basically just the idea of being fully present. And many of the times when people are, or I think many people in the world are not present when through their daily life, they're either preoccupied with the past or they're anticipating the future. And a lot of people that are not doing so well are often flipping between with a lot of regret from the past and then anticipating the worst things in the future. Now, during this time of this virus, there are lots of things that I think we could be fixating and worrying about. I guess as Christian believers, we need to take courage and hope that God is in control. Also, though, even those who do have a Christian faith often struggle with this being either focused on the past or anticipating the future. And the thing I'd encourage you to do, when we'll get back to this idea of mindfulness in a second, is, I think most people do the best they can in their past. We make the best decisions we can with the resources and knowledge we have. Sometimes people are really focused on the shoulds. I should have done this or I shouldn't have done that. At the end of the day, the past is the past. We can only do the best we can. And if there's something we genuinely do need to own and rectify from our past, we need to do that. We also are wise to learn from our past, but in large measure, we need to just be present. The other challenge for a lot of people is not being so past focused, but being present. What's going to happen? Anticipatory anxiety into the future. We don't know what the future holds. None of us do. And the reality is sometimes we can steal our resources and put them in the future, worrying about things that may never ever happen. And even if they do, we can't do anything about it in the present. One of the best ways to help with this flipping from past to future is this idea of mindfulness. And there is an application that you can find online. It's a free one called Smiling Mind. That's a really useful one it sort of speaks about what mindfulness is about and also gives activities to practice with. One of the best ways of an activity of mindfulness is just to try to engage as many of your senses as you can in an activity. So that could be, as I'm speaking now, I can hear the birds outside, and one of the things I find really replenishing to me is sitting in my garden and listening, so engaging my hearing. I look, I might feel the sun on my skin, so that's touch. So it's putting the mind to anything that just helps keep your mind fully in the moment, in the present. And there's been a lot of research on this being really, really helpful for us mentally and physically. And it is something that's probably not practiced by a lot of people. So this is just a general thing that's good for anybody's well-being, but particularly during these times of worry for what may or may not occur. Okay. So there's a couple of applications, or just a couple of resources I was going to mention, and then I'll just sum up. So we'll probably only go for about another 3 minutes. There are many useful things to listen to on ABC Listen application. There's lots of things on mental health there. There's something I think on mindfulness there. So lots of really good stuff that you can listen to on ABC Listen. Many people would be familiar with Beyond Blue or even the Black Dog Institute, which are both big organisations that are focused on mental health. So you can just look up Beyond Blue or the Black Dog and you'll find loads of information. You'll also find little kind of personal assessment skills, tools to look at how you're going yourself. If you have any particular concerns about your mental health, that can be an initial screen to have a look at Beyond Blue. As I've mentioned, the Smiling Mind is really useful. Perhaps if there's interest, we'll do another talk on relationships, because I work extensively with couples as well as with individuals with mental health problems. One really excellent resource for strengthening couples is the Gottman Institute. So it's for another time to talk about this, but John Gottman and his colleagues have done extensive research on qualities in marriages and committed relationships that last the distance well and those that end in divorce. So Gottman would be a really fantastic Gottman Institute, if you just look that up online, would be a great place to look for good resources to strengthen your relationship during these really stressful times. If you go on YouTube, there's lots of really great little videos that Gottman has done, so that's really accessible as well. So just to summarise today, I just want to draw back to, encouraging you to stay connected, watch your nutrition, keep ingesting stuff that's good for you. If you're a drinker, don't overdo it. Don't really overdo anything, I suppose. It's a time just for moderation in all things. Encourage you to keep your sleep and waking cycle pretty consistent. So go to bed, get up in routine ways. Find meaningful ways of getting to the end of your day where you have a sense of accomplishment, some sense of mastery. And if that incorporates serving other people, well, that's even better. That's probably a great thing. We know that, one, we're called as Christians to do that, but we also, it's really, really good for us to be generous and to be contributing to others. Just a couple of extra things I'd mention is really encourage people to limit their news consumption. I think we need to stay informed, absolutely, but it can be a bit too overwhelming if we're just watching loads of news. Anything that replenishes you. Personally, I love to dance around my kitchen, music, gardening, anything that gives you a sense of pleasure and entering into it in a really present, mindful way is going to be good for you. Foster, I know this sounds terribly corny, but foster an attitude of gratitude and be grateful. Anything you can be grateful for at this time is the way to go. And I just lastly want to mention, we don't tend to break habits, we make habits, and now is a really good time to try to develop really positive habits to take care of your well-being. So I hope today's been useful. God bless everybody. I'll see you when I see you.